So this is the Samsung Galaxy S4 Active. Now Samsung claimed this to be what's so-called the rugged version of the Galaxy S4, but is this really the rugged device we know? I'm Jens Garcia from Tech for Geeks, and this is our full review of the Samsung Galaxy S4 Active. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Vodafone Australia for providing us the handset and SIM card. You can also check out their available plans for this device in the description box below. Now, the Galaxy S4 Active has similar specifications as the Galaxy S4, but this is not just your typical Galaxy S4 you would see around. This is IP67 certified, which means this is waterproof and dustproof, and I guess that's the most notable feature of this phone. Now, the phone features a slightly similar 5-inch Full HD display, but it's TFT instead of the Super AMOLED display on the S4. That has a similar 441 ppi as well. A 16GB of onboard storage with an option to expand for up to 64GB of storage via the micro SD card slot, 2GB of RAM, and also Wi-Fi 802.11, ABGNN, and obviously the latest generation, which is AC. It's also LTE compatible and has 2600 mAh of battery. Now, as for the CPU and GPU, it has a similar quad-core Snapdragon 600 processor running at 1.9 GHz and Adreno 320 GPU. Now, that's enough for all the workloads and intensive games that are available on the Play Store. Now, there's no octa-core model, which features the Cortex A7 and A15 processors that you would find on the 3G model of the Galaxy S4. Now, it certainly doesn't look as rugged, but instead it has a sporty design, and yes, the back is plastic with a similar pattern as the Tab 3, and then on the top and bottom you have this rubberized finish, which is similar to the Nexus 10. Taking a closer look at the phone, you have the 2-megapixel front-facing camera, earpiece, proximity sensors, motion sensor, LED notification light at the front, and 3 physical buttons. On the left and right hand sides of the phone, you have the power button and volume up and down button. And then at the top, you have the Aero Blaster microphone and the 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, looking on the bottom of the device, you'll find the secondary microphone and the micro USB port, which is covered with hard plastic. And I guess that's one of the reasons why this phone is waterproof. Now, and then looking at the back, you'll find a slightly lowered 8-megapixel camera along with LED flash, as well as embedded Samsung logo and obviously the speaker grill just in the bottom corner. Well, overall, the phone feels very comfortable to hold. It is slightly thicker than the Galaxy S4 and slightly heavier as well. But apart from that, it also feels flimsy on the back, so I do get worried whenever I'm submerging this in the water. Now, you can get the Active into 3 different colors as well, such as teal, orange, and obviously gray, but the colors may vary depending on the carriers. Now, back to the whole waterproof idea. Now, since I've been using this phone for more than 2 weeks now, I did experience a bug after dipping the phone underwater. Now, the phone actually stopped charging, and the first thing that came in my mind was I definitely screwed it up. But after doing a factory reset, it actually started charging again. So I thought that was just a bug, but please do let me know if you had this problem as well. And you also can't use the display to navigate when it's underwater, so keep that in mind. The display on the Active has a different color reproduction as the Galaxy S4, hence the TFT display compared to the Super AMOLED display on the S4. But being said that, it looks a lot more natural and not so, well, oversaturated compared to Super AMOLED displays. The display looked really sharp and crisp thanks to its high pixel density. It also has a great viewing angle and doesn't look washed out even by looking on the side, since it has a bright display. It's very visible in the bright sunny weather, and same with taking photos, and I didn't really have any trouble seeing the screen. And overall, it was very visible, and I'm really happy about the display. Speaking of the camera, it features Samsung's proprietary software, which is similar to the Galaxy S4, and it's very easy to use. You've got all the modes on the right, and then at the top you've got the setting button for easy access. Now there's also a dedicated mode for active called Aqua mode, which basically optimizes the camera to take better shots underwater. Now you can only use the volume up and down to actually take the photo, and as a result, since you cannot also use the touch display, then it really is quite hard to take sharp photos. Now speaking of image quality, the 8 megapixel camera on the Active is actually quite impressive. As long as you have the correct lighting, then the subject in the photo can look very sharp. The color reproduction is accurate as well, though the camera can sometimes have trouble focusing to the right object. Now, it is capable of recording full 1080p videos at 30 frames per second, and the problem I found when video recording is when it's too exposed outside, the ISO starts being inaccurate, making the video too dark. Now, video recording at night isn't too bad as well. It's actually about the same quality as the Galaxy S4, and yes, you still see a lot of grains due to smaller sensor compared to the HTC One, for example. But overall, the camera performed very well, considering that you can use it underwater as well, is something that not all phones can do. Now, the Galaxy S4 Active is running Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean with Samsung's very own TouchWiz UI on top, and whether you like it or not, it features the same motions and gestures you'd find on the Galaxy S4. Now, it may be fun for the first time you use it, but after a week or two of using it, you may just think that these features are just too gimmicky. Now, despite that, I'm still glad that Samsung included the IR Blaster in the S4 Active, because to be honest, I really enjoyed using it as a remote control, and I'm sure you'll agree with me with this, as this is a neat feature on, I guess, on a smartphone. With plenty of cores and RAM to handle all the tasks, the Galaxy S4 can take them all with no problem. But as always, I did experience lag and delays over the weeks of using the Active, but most of the time it had solid performance. Most high-end games that I usually play runs very smooth thanks to the Adreno 320 GPU, and I guess with high-end specs like this, you should expect it to have some serious performance. As for the battery life, it really didn't lasted for me for a whole day of usage based on heavy consumption, and 8 hours is about the maximum I was able to get out of this, and with light consumption I was able to use it for well more than 22 hours. But hopefully with the Android 4.3 update on this will improve the battery life. Well, this review would not be completed without call quality. Now, I had no problems with calls in my area. It was crystal clear, and I was using the Vodafone network running on their 4G network. And however, when you get to the middle part in the west from where I live, then I started having a few dropouts. But apart from that, overall, as I've said, like most of my calls were pretty clear and no dropouts. So I'm pretty happy overall. Now, since we're talking about the network, we might as well talk about the network speed. Now, I have to say that I'm quite impressed with the Vodafone network, because the fact that I'm actually getting 4G reception in my area is a big deal. I haven't really experienced getting above 40 megabits per second, but I know a few people that actually achieved over 90 megabits per second. And if you have Cat4 LTE compatible phones, then you can take advantage of their 150 megabits per second download speed. Now, it features dual band Wi-Fi antenna as well and the latest AC connection, but although I don't own an AC enabled router, I was still able to get solid speeds out of the Wi-Fi with no experience of dropouts. So what do I think of the Galaxy S4 Active? Well, first of all, it's not as rugged as the name suggests, and even though it's waterproof and dustproof, it still doesn't have that enough protection like the Kyocera Torque, I guess, which is, by the way, a full-on rugged device. But despite that, it still replicated the Galaxy S4 lineup. So is this the one for you? Well, if you don't care about the whole rugged concept about this phone and you just want a durable phone that records underwater, then I can recommend this. But I still don't think that you should always be using this to record underwater, as anything can go wrong, and Samsung is not actually in charge of replacing it. But overall, I'm quite happy with the performance of the Galaxy S4 Active, but let's just hope that Samsung will push out the 4.3 update to this after the Galaxy S4. So yeah, that's our full review of the Galaxy S4 Active, and if you enjoyed this video or if you find this review helpful, then definitely hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as it really helps us a lot. And if you want to chat with us about this or technology in general, then you can always follow us on Twitter and Facebook. All the links are in the description box below. As always, I'm just Chris here from Tech for Geeks, and I'll see you all in the next one.